blue and grey.
Hello and welcome, admirable viewers. It's a pleasure to have you join us on today's Science and Spirituality, where we'll be exploring one of the most ancient forms of sacred communication, and that is prayer. Since the beginning of time, people have sought comfort and guidance from a higher power in times of need. Through prayer, we seek to communicate with the divine, oftentimes to ask for help to ease the pain that we or people around us experience. Today we'll take a look at some scientific evidence concerning the power of prayer in healing various medical conditions. According to anthropologists, prayer has been practiced by human societies for millennia. Some written texts that are 5,000 years old mention the use of different forms of prayer. Most religions and faiths practice prayer in one form or another. There are many different ways of praying. Some practice prayer through repetition of a mantra, and some by using rosary beads. In Tibet, prayers are written on flags to allow the wind to carry them to heaven's ears. Some faiths have specific prayers for specific situations, while others practice prayer in a group at certain times of the day. There has been a growing scientific interest in the area of intercessory prayer, or distant prayer, that is, when a person prays for the benefit of another individual located in a different place. There have been numerous experiments and studies on this subject by universities and medical institutions. Now, let's take a closer look at some of these studies. One of the most recognized research studies in his field was conducted by Dr. Randolph C. Bird. His research involved 393 patients that were admitted to the coronary care unit of San Francisco General Hospital in California, the United States of America. The patients were randomly divided into two groups. One group had between 3 to 7 people praying for them, while the other group didn't have anyone praying for them. The intercessors, those who prayed for the patients, were given the first name and the general medical condition of the patient. This was a double-blind study, which means that the patients didn't know they were being prayed for, nor did the physicians treating them know which patients were being prayed for. This is important in scientific experiments to ensure the validity of the results without the possibility of bias. The intercessors gave daily prayers and asked for the rapid recovery and prevention of complications and death. The results of this experiment, published in the Southern Medical Journal, showed that of the 6 categories of outcomes, the prayed-for patients did better than the non-prayed-for group. Dr. Bird concluded, based on these data, there seemed to be an effect, and that effect was presumed to be beneficial. In another experiment, Dr. William S. Harris and his team studied patients that were admitted to the Mid-America Heart Institute in Kansas City, USA. This experiment was also double-blind and involved 990 patients. The intercessors were from a wide variety of Christian denominations. They were only told the names of the people they were praying for, but not the medical conditions. The results from this experiment supported Dr. Bird's results. The outcome score for the prayed-for group was 11% lower than the score for the control group, which means that the prayed-for group had less complications during their hospital stay. In Israel, Professor Leonard Leibovici of the Rabin Medical Center conducted an experiment on the effects of remote intercessory prayer on patients with bloodstream infections. This study was unique in that the prayers were said retroactively, that is, 4 to 10 years after the patients had been diagnosed at the hospital. Professor Leibovici commented, "As we cannot assume a priori that time is linear, as we perceive it, or that God is limited by a linear time as we are, the intervention was carried out 4 to 10 years after the patient's infection and hospitalization. For this double-blind randomized study, 3,393 adult patients were research participants. Statistical analysis showed that remote, retroactive intercessory prayer for the patients was associated with a shorter hospital stay and shorter duration of fever. They also had a slightly lower mortality rate. Professor Leibovich suggested that prayer be used in conjunction with standard medical care, as it is both effective and economical. He further pointed out that the mechanism by which prayers work is not known, but that does not invalidate the findings. He believed science will come up with the answer at a later date, just as the mechanism by which limes cured scurvy was not known at the time. It was discovered much later to be due to the ascorbic acid present in the citrus fruit. So, let us take a moment now to pray for world peace and sustainability. Please stay tuned for more science and spirituality here on Supreme Master Television. In another landmark experiment involving 40 AIDS patients, Dr. Elizabeth Targ at the California Pacific Medical Center in San Francisco conducted a 6-month study to gauge the effects of prayer and intentions. The patients all had similar CD4+ counts, which meant that their immune systems were operating at relatively the same levels. They were also of similar ages and stages of disease progression. The patients were then divided into 2 groups. Both received standard AIDS medication, but only one of the groups was prayed for. Again, this experiment was double-blind. Neither the healthcare professionals nor the patients knew who was being prayed for. A diverse group of people from different religious faiths, from rabbis to Native Americans, all prayed for one group of patients. The results showed that the prayed-for group had fewer AIDS-related illnesses and required fewer doctor visits and hospitalizations. The prayed-for group also had higher improved mood scores. There has been a lot of research showing the beneficial effects of prayer in a variety of diseases and conditions. Self-prayer has also been shown to improve mood and outlook in terminally ill patients. Some experts say that self-prayer or repeating a mantra actually induces a state of mind that causes the release of endorphins. This meditative state has also been observed to reduce blood pressure and cholesterol levels. In a study carried out by Dr. Luciano Bernardi, Associate Professor of Internal Medicine at the University of Padua, Italy, it was experimentally shown that repetition of the Ave Maria prayer or a yoga mantra caused breathing to slow down, which is beneficial to heart patients. A boost in the participants' psychological mood was also reported. The last study we will look at today is one that has received considerable attention. Duke University Medical Center cardiologist Dr. Mitch Krukoff conducted a study on 150 patients undergoing an operation called angioplasty. This involves the enlarging or opening a narrowed artery leading to the heart. The patients were divided into 5 groups. One of the groups received the surgery only, while the other 4 groups received different kinds of noetic or alternative therapy. The word noetic derives from the ancient Greek word nous, which refers to inner knowing or intuitive consciousness. One of these therapies was intercessory prayer. The intercessors were people from various faiths, including Buddhists, Christians, Jews and Moravians. It was shown that patients who received noetic or alternative therapies had a 25 to 30% reduction in adverse outcomes. It was further noted that of all the therapies, those who received prayer did better than all the others in terms of avoiding adverse outcomes, including death, heart failure or repeat angioplasty. In fact, results of a poll conducted by CBS, a major American television network, showed that 80% of Americans believe that prayer heals, and that 63% believe that doctors should pray for their patients. In a 1999 public lecture in the capital city of Sofia, Bulgaria, Supreme Master Ching Hai spoke about the power of loving and positive thoughts.
Loving thought and positive thinking always make the atmosphere more bright and more positive, more loving. The more people who have the same thought, the better the influence. The more concentrate that person is, the more influence. So actually, if we want to have more energetic influence upon something, upon some matter, we must ourselves gather this concentration force within us, concentrate on this God power within us first, and we must know how, and then we can direct that God force to influence the world.
May all beings in the world be blessed with a bright and sustainable future, filled with peace, comfort and love. Thank you for joining us on Science and Spirituality. Coming up next is Words of Wisdom, right after Noteworthy News, here on Supreme Master Television. We'll see you next time.